100 miles. Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Gourmet Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Join alongside Tim in Green Bay. We got Emilio in Tennessee here to talk some Packers with you guys and gals this evening. How we doing tonight, gents?
Doing great. Doing absolutely great. We got a new dump trailer for the company. I got to send you a picture, get an idea on lettering, but I'm excited. The back's happy. We're good to go.
Yeah, I'm happy too, man. Only a couple more days of
depression. Oh my God. All right, here we are. Let's jump into it. My goodness, let's go to the chat. Joseph in the house says, man, whoever votes 100% on some super positive glass half full folk, I need to buy a bottle of that mindset sometimes. And obviously he's talking about the poll question tonight. As we get into it, it says, what do you think the chances are that Jaire Alexander stays in Green Bay this season? Right? The options are 100%, 75%, 50%, or 25%. Right now, 50% is leading the way at 52% of the votes now, as I say that. And then second place, it's tied 75% and 25% at 19% of the vote. A little bit confusing there, but essentially we're just kind of breaking it down. What are the chances of Jaire staying in Green Bay? So everybody's kind of like 50-50 at this moment right now. So we'll see how that shakes out. Has anybody else heard anything through the grapevine that would make you change your mind on how you felt coming into today, I guess you could say?
I don't think so. I'm still there. Still about 50-50. I don't know about you, Emilio.
No, not no. I mean, just the fact that Keyshawn was able to step up. I mean, it gives you an option to not always have to, fall back to Ja. Maybe if you didn't have that kind of performance. But yeah, you're still bouncing between 51-49 either way, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Jason Weiss says 65% should have been an option. That really should have been an option. That was silly.
You messed. That's
65%.
65%. I screw stuff up all the time, boys. You don't believe me? Ask Mandy. She will confirm. She will double confirm that. So, also in the chat, Greg Rice says, Goot and Matt LaFleur seem to think it was a non-issue. Now I do not remember if I voted 50% or 25%, letting him go due to the saving $10 million. It's actually quite a bit less than $10 million for this year, Greg. Now, if you do post June 1, I try not to get into all that because now you're really trying to paint a narrative, right? But yeah, the number, if I remember correctly, is somewhere, I always say between 5 and 7 because, with the roster bonuses and different aspects, you don't know exactly what's going to carry over if he's traded. But somewhere around 6 is a good number, probably 6.5, I would think would be right there in the median area of that. Packers Kingdom says, I'm arguing with people about Love, and I said every elite quarterback have a guy they can depend on and can catch. Love has to do more in elevated talent most times. He makes them look nice. Only wide receiver would be starter and legit. That's Reed. Every other quarterback has a one. I was sitting here thinking about this, guys. Who are the best quarterbacks in the league right now? You think Josh Allen, right? He's in the running for MVP right now. Lamar. Who's his number one receiver? I couldn't think of one.
Yeah. Who's Lamar Jackson's?
He's tight end.
Right. Tim, check your mic for me, man. You may be you sound a little quiet. Might have been us talking over each other. But did it sound quiet to you too, Emilio?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it may have done that thing it always does there, Tim.
I would say Dawson Knox or,
right.
Somebody, like that. But that's maybe where we can go. If Tucker Kraft keeps growing and turns into that leader he wants to be, I could see him carrying the weight. And, then you fluctuate Musgrave in, and then maybe you don't always need to have 3 or 4 receivers on the field at a time.
Right. And I immediately, Tim, I thought I would have one. And then as I said it out loud, I'm going, wait a minute. Right. Now you've got Mark Andrews up there in Baltimore with Lamar, but he was hurt last year. And I don't know if he's been healthy this year. I haven't followed him too close.
And he's a tight end, right? Not a receiver.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
So,
what's Pat Mahomes' number one target? Tight
bingo.
end.
Is it D Hop now? Right.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely Kelsey. Right. We would all agree that's been the go-to guy during this dynastic run they've had. And isn't it funny? Of the three top quarterbacks, we mentioned they got a stud tied in pretty much. So maybe we're undervaluing that, right? And it's nice that we've got Tucker now, which he should get the ball more. There's no two ways about that. With his catch percentage, that dude should be getting targeted more.
Wasn't he second in the league at tight end for run after catch or after the reception? Absolutely beautiful. I think that's part of his game that you can rely on. If he's just a flare out. If we were asking him, if we're having trouble with the D line that we're playing against, and you're asking him to chip a lot, and he can still flare out and catch the ball and take it for 12, that is so awesome to have on this team.
Yeah, and the only reason I thought of Baltimore and Buffalo in that sequence there was because those are your two MVP front runners. Another one was Joe Burrow. Now Joe Burrow's got Jamar Chase, right?
Right.
Jamar Chase, and he's got T. Higgins as a number 2. Some would argue that T. Higgins is number 1 caliber. I don't know if I'm quite there yet in terms of tilting the field, but we know Jamar Chase definitely does. So that one checks out. I'm trying to think of another top quarterback. Last year it was Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott. And, of course, Dak had CeeDee Lamb last year. He had him this year, but, of course, Dak gets hurt and the team's underperforming. With Brock Purdy in San Francisco, you would say Deebo Samuel, and you'd also throw in what's his name is escaping me. Receiver that we almost drafted, or we wanted to draft, but they climbed up ahead of us. Who was it?
Brandon Ayuk.
Ayuk, that's it. Yeah. So he's got 2 really good targets there, right? So
we could say, I guess Goff, right? Goff and St. Brown.
Yep. That's a number 1, right? I mean, it's not that take the top off the defense, although he can catch deep routes, but he's definitely getting coverage hammering down on him, working the slot. That's for sure.
Jaden Daniels, who do you have? McLaurin, right?
McLaurin, right? Yeah. That's the true. I say true number 1. It's not like that field tilting number 1, but it's obvious that's a number 1 caliber.
Right. Jefferson in Minnesota.
Like most things in life, it's not just cut and dry. Here's the answer. It's kind of a mixed bag, right? But the 2 guys that are having the most success, you do have to mention, of course, in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson's had Derrick Henry, who's just played outside of his freaking mind this year, right? So it's just cool to see so much, I don't know if the right word is diversity, but it just seems like throughout the entire league, you've got this team that does this really well. This team's totally opposite, but they're having success. The one I would say is a true truck, meaning the trailer is attached to him. My goodness, man, that's Josh Allen. I mean, that dude, again, I'm sure they've got a good running back, right? We know who Dawson Knox is. I can't think of their receiver right now. Who on defense is really good for Buffalo that's kind of carrying the water other than a 87-year-old Von Miller, right? So,
I think that's going to be their kryptonite is that defense. It's probably a light, speedy kind of defense. If they get, punched in the mouth a lot, I think that could be a problem.
I definitely agree with Packers Kingdom. If you had to name one for love, though, it's got to be Jaden Reed. He's that dude. And isn't it amazing, the one that everybody was just ragging on? Not everybody, I shouldn't say that. Many fans were ragging on a month ago. He's the only one we can really say, yeah, it's probably your number 1 as it sits right now. So Chris in the chat, good evening, y'all. I voted 25% because I don't see Jaire accepting a pay cut, and I don't see a world where Goody doesn't ask. Yeah, and when you talk pay cut, Chris, keep in mind a pay cut equals more guaranteed money. So it depends on how you look at it, right? If it's him going to him and say, we're not giving you any more guaranteed money and we want to cut your salary, yeah, Josh saying no to that. But when we talk restructure, most of the time that's converting base salary to signing bonus so you can free up cap room, lower the overall cap number, but they're getting more guaranteed money in their pocket. That's why players, it's kind of a no-brainer for them to get a little more security, and it frees up cap for the team. Joseph in the chat says, I read somewhere that the Jaire savings would be $6 to $7 million. That's what I've got here. As a matter of fact, let me pull it up. I think I've got it right here. Let me get Spot Track up. Jaire Alexander contract. Here we go. So with Jaire's contract here, 2025 is the number you want to look at, right? And what you want to pay attention to is cap hit, $25.4 million, dead cap, $19 million. So basically, you're going to eat a $19 million cap hit, but you're going to be freeing up a little over $6 million, something like, what would that be? Rough numbers, 6.4, little less than 6.4 million, I believe. So that's how much you would free up. Now, when we're talking about restructuring this thing, look at his base salary of 16.1, right? and his roster bonus is only 267. So you would have to restructure out of the base salary, meaning if you went to John and said, hey, John, let's do this, man. Let's shave $10 million off your base salary. Okay. If you give us $5 million back in cap, we'll guarantee a $5 million of it and put that in a signing bonus form for you. Right. And that way he gets a $5 million check cut to him. We shave $5 million off the cap, and he doesn't have to worry about possibly going to another team, not getting the deal, or trying to hit the open market after we cut him and getting way less than that, right? Because, and that's the other thing, some people are making it sound like Jaire's this slam dunk to get first-round picks and God knows what else. But the reality is the dude's 28 years old, and he's played less than 50% of the snaps. Oh, by the way, he got suspended too by the team. Like those,
Right. That would bring his
things could be a lot worse. I could be a Bears fan.
That is so true. The signing bonus would bring that to 11 million in that scenario, right? You're saying it's not because he's already at 6, but it gets added on top of that.
So what we would do is you would reduce the salary in that scenario, just shaving 10 million off the base salary. You reduce it down to 6.1 million for base salary.
Right.
You would tack on 5 million onto the signing bonus. Okay. So it would make it 11 total, although the other's already been prorated. We'll talk about that in a second. So you tack 5 there, you shave 5 off. That's the 10 million you're shaving off of the cap, or I'm sorry, the 5 million you're shaving off the cap. And what's cool is if you look here, he's actually got one voidable year. So not only can you spread that cap hit out, that's that 5 million that you just tacked on in signing bonus, you could spread that out. You could say, you know what, let's put 2.5 on 2026 and 2.5 added to that 2.3 on 2027.
Gotcha.
So it doesn't even affect your cap space this year, right?
Right.
But that's another way of looking at it. It really is. But I got to be real too. When I'm looking in free agency, I don't see the Xavier McKinney and the Josh Jacobs this round. I don't. This year, I'm just not seeing those guys like those are slam dunks, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see some middle of the road that you hope you get a bargain on, right?
Right.
But I just don't see that dude. You know how we say you're willing to overpay for great, you're never willing to overpay for good. I don't see the great players in free agency you're willing to overpay for. You know what I mean? You've got a couple aging linebackers that, like Bobby Wagner, I'm okay with paying him top dollar. You get 1 year out of him. But, that's just kind of an example of, I guess you would technically overpay for that. But
right. Seems like free agency this year is kind of more of projections. What can this guy do for my team? How can he grow? Where are we age wise, that sort of thing. Not exactly what we had last year going into it. That's why maybe you think Goody does chase this down. Not begging job, but saying, hey, we need to get this squared away before we get this next. Because maybe we can hammer it before the next league year, get it all squared away, and not even have to worry about it. And he's still under 10% of the cap. I think that's huge. If you have if he can become that star player, we reel that in a little bit more. Then you're screaming at the end of the year, happy that we got a deal. And looking at Josh's perspective, does he want to go to a team that wins a Super Bowl? That's going to narrow that down too. Even if you can't go let him test it or anything, right? So
it's like Goody was saying, the other day, right? We can afford him.
right.
Like it's there. It's just a matter of the specifics at this point.
Right. And you really don't have to adjust it. But if Goody's looking at it like, hey, he's not been worth the money the last 2 years, then he might be the one playing hardball. This whole time we were talking about Jaire playing a little hardball, right? So he may go in there and go, look, if he's not willing to restructure, take a little more guaranteed money and give us a little bit more cap freedom to the tune of $5 million, just like I said, easy math, then it's worth it for us to cut loose of him and free up $6 million and not have, that issue in the locker room anymore, if indeed there is an issue. And we know there was one last year. I don't have any reason to believe there's one this year, but I wouldn't roll anything out at this point either. So that's kind of the way I took that too, Tim, was like what Goody's saying is we don't really have to do anything.
Right.
We can afford to keep him. It's just, if I remember correctly, he said something about it's got to make sense for both sides or something. Is kind of how he paraphrased it. So that would lead you to believe he is going to go and try to get something done. Because again, you can say, we can afford it, and it's true. But if you free up the $5 million or even $2 million, guess what? That rolls into the cap next year, even if you don't use it this year, right? So it's still money in the bank. But,
yeah, and I think that's a great point, Clay. Just because there was frustration, like Goody was saying, frustration on both sides. Jaire's frustrated. He's not getting out there to make any money. He's mad I can't get out there and protect my contract with performance on the field kind of stuff. And Goody's like, well, I can't really protect your contract where it's at because you didn't have any performance on the field.
Right.
That's just
business, man.
Swirl.
Yep. Joseph in the chat said, I thought it was 7, and then Clay recently said 6, if my aging mind reminds me correctly. That's right. So my calculations are 6.4 million. So it's right there in that ballpark, Joseph. Jason Y in the chat. Ladies, get yourself a man that looks at you like Mark Murphy does at his computer when he says 65%. So
65%. 65%. That's what we.
All right, let's have a little fun before we dive into some rookie tackles that are incoming. Did you guys see this tweet from NFL Memes?
This was terrible, but hilarious.
I laughed so hard, man. NFL Memes said, if the NFL casted actors for a movie about the 2024 season, let's jump into it here. You got Samuel L. Jackson as Lamar Jackson. You got Judi Dench as Jerry Jones. This might be my favorite. Jada Pinkett Smith with a mustache as Tony Dungy. I really see that one big time. This one, though, Zendaya as Caleb Williams. Nick Cannon as Tariq Hill. Because I don't know if you guys drew that comparison, but they both have like 32 children.
They both have 357 children. Yeah.
Yeah, I undersold that a little bit, didn't I, Tim? Tom Holland as Brock Purdy. I can kind of see that. Next, you got Chris Hemsworth as Sam Darnold. Macaulay Culkin as Joe Burrow. This next one right here, boys. Diddy as Deshaun Watson. That
who?
Yeah, that's right, Snoop. Drake as Russ Wilson. Anna Hathaway as Derek.
Did Derek Carr so dirty?
Oh, this next one, you may not know who he is, guys. Listen on the pod, but Peter Dinklage as Kyler Murray. I can't
Just
even.
the tip, though.
That's the guy who played the angry elf in the movie Elf, if you guys remember that, right? So also in Lord of the Rings, or not Lord of the Rings. What was it?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. There you go. So that one got a good pop out of me. You got Nicolas Cage as Andy Reid. The Ryan Gosling as Jared Goff. I got to admit,
that's
man,
spot on.
Yeah,
spot on. How about Shane Gillis as Mike McCarthy? And believe it or not, the Steve Carell as Aaron Rodgers. I see that one.
That would be cool.
Yep. Officer Farva as Aiden O'Connell.
Talking about shenanigans? Shenanigans.
Hey, what's that place you like with all the crap on the wall? Shenanigans? All right, Liam Hemsworth as Justin Herbert. Is that all of them? No, wait, there's more. Josh Brolin as Dan Campbell. That was kind of serious. This one cracked me up, too. Leonardo DiCaprio as Bill Belichick with his young girlfriend. Chris Evans as Josh Allen. Joel Osteen as Kirko Chains. Jay-Z as Troy Aikman, which I don't know if you guys ever seen the side-by-side of Troy Aikman and Jay-Z. Bro, I think there's a conspiracy there for Jacob to dive into. I'm just telling you. And then Matt Damon as Joe Buck. And, of course, Jason Momoa as Tua.
Oh, man.
So, again, I thought those were excellent, man. You guys want to scroll back through, see any of those one more time or no?
No, I'm good.
That was a good laugh, man.
Yeah.
I did not see that.
The Belichick one just sent me over the edge. I'm like, gosh, this is so good. So, anyway, just having a little fun here. Hopefully it didn't upset anyone. If it did, I completely understand. I get upset all the time, too. Next thing, I said Goody cooked here. PFF Green Bay Packers. Edgerrin Cooper, 85.7 PFF grade this season. That is 4th among all linebackers, 2nd among all defensive rookies. And I think I know what I'm going to do for this Edgerrin Cooper jersey I'm getting, boys. You know, I told you I got the 1950s style. This right here, matter of fact, this patch we're going to put on it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about getting a custom patch made of a Michael Myers mask to put like the John Madden patch. Would that not look clean?
That would look clean.
Might make that happen. Might even put Myers on. I might get one of them custom jerseys and just put Myers on the back. M. Myers. So,
AKA William Shatner, right?
Exactly right, Tim. Now listen, dude, what he did this year, I mean, it was remarkable. And there's a couple of linebacker prospects I find myself kind of, all right. And we'll mention them in great detail here in a little bit. But Jihad Campbell out of Bama kind of caught my attention. Carson Schweisinger, I think is how you say it, out of UCLA. And then I'm telling you, man, Ole Miss is loaded with talent coming into the draft. It's unbelievable. They have Chris Paul Jr., who had a PFF rate of 87.2 out of Ole Miss, playing down there in the SEC. So, it's going to be interesting to see who they pair up with Edgerrin Cooper in the future. If it's not Quay, although, like I said yesterday, Goody seemed to think that Quay Walker's a huge part of the future here moving forward. What do you guys think about that with Edgerrin? And how do we feel about the whole Quay Walker thing, man? We kind of talked about the fifth-year option, but are you hoping that he gets re-signed? What do you guys think about that?
Man, I'm not sure. To the Coop question, I'm so excited about Coop and the fact that he has, blossomed into what he has. I'm happy that, it wasn't throw him in the fire right off the first game. Let's ease him in. Okay, he's ready to, get the reins loose each week. Remember, we were guessing 20 snaps, 30 snaps. You can't just pile it on this guy and then, he loses all faith and everything, keeps playing with that fire, and it's going to be one of those years, coming right after his rookie year. He's going to have a full off season to learn, to get, hit the gym if he wants to put on a little weight, whatever he wants to do, and be ready to roll, man. Him next to Quay, I didn't mind it, but I'm also not opposed to if we find a dog at linebacker, bring him in, or, Hopper steps up, something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I think you got to keep Quay in the fold just going forward right now because of the unknown factor. We talk about McDuffie more than likely probably being somewhere else next year, and possibly Eric Wilson as well. So you have Hopper step up, you've got Coop, you've got Quay. That's a solid foundation. You start bringing in other pieces. I don't know if we go to the draft. We haven't really looked at middle linebacker in draft prospects yet or free agency, so that'll be fun to kind of check that out. But I think you've got a solid base with a guy like Quay, and maybe the option does make the most sense with Quay. Take another year and let's see what's going on. You don't full out extend them. I don't think we just cut bait from Quay just yet, and I don't think they're going to. Honestly, I think he's going to be around for a little bit longer.
I like that take though, Tim. So if your base is if your bottom dollar is Quay, and you have Coop, and you have Hopper, whatever that's going to be, but what Quay is at the base. I mean, if Quay, not saying it would happen, but if Quay's your base and he's your, he could be the special teams ace if somehow you get a stud in there and Coop's a stud, whatever. But I would be much happier with Quay as a floor rather than the unknown, or even Eric Wilson if he's gone. I'd rather have Quay.
Yeah, yep. Definitely. Greg Rice in the chat said, why don't you fifth-year option both left tackle and right tackle? The fifth-year option is designated for first-round picks, Greg. So, in our case, we happen to hit on late-round picks for our tackles. So, it's great because of the money you've saved over the last 2-3 years, whatever it's been, right? But on the flip side, you do not have that fifth-year option, which you guys know how I feel about the fifth-year option. I'm not a huge fan of it. I would much rather be able to kind of structure that contract in a way that you can make it very cap friendly, whether you want to front load it or back load it. However, you can move the fifth-year option over the course of the contract. And typically it's the final year of the contract. But what we did with Darnell Savage, if I remember correctly, is we hit him with the fifth-year option. We tacked on 2 or 3 voidable years, and we just spread that out over those 3 years. And then, of course, that money came due as soon as he left. But lo and behold, you can see it didn't really affect our cap situation at all. So even when we got really aggressive with the cap, we were nowhere near as aggressive as most teams that do get aggressive as far as cash over cap and adding those voidable years to the contract. So yeah, fifth-year options are just for first-round picks there, unfortunately. So I like the way you're thinking though, and it's probably, guys, it's why teams take swings at the most expensive positions right in the first round, is because if you hit on one, you've got that extra little fifth-year option you can slap on them at the end of that contract, and it can delay one more year of paying them top dollar. Like with LVM, let's say LVN just absolutely blows up next year, right? He finished the year 11.8 pressure percentage this year, which was 62nd in the NFL amongst all defensive linemen. And what I mean by that is that includes defensive tackles as well. So if you take 32 teams, times that by 4, that number you come up with is a little over 120. Anything in the top 120 amongst those defensive linemen from a pressure percentage standpoint would be considered starting caliber, right? He was 62nd. So he was in the right at the 50% mark, right at the halfway mark. So let's say next year he takes a step forward, he blows up, he finishes with 12 sacks, and he's top 5 in the league in pressure percentage. Right? Let's just say that happens. That's one of those dudes you're going, all right, we're going to use a 5th-year option on him because that's going to keep us from blimping that cap hit up to 25-30 million, right? That's where you would utilize that in that situation. And the same thing with Rasheed Walker. If you had drafted Rasheed Walker in the first round, you'd probably be looking at a similar situation. Like you definitely would with Zach Tom, but I'm not trying to say that Rasheed Walker is as good a lineman as Zach Tom. I don't think it's close, but Rasheed Walker is playing like starting left tackle. There's no doubt about that, man. So
for sure.
Jason Y with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, happy Friday. Got a beer can chicken in the Traeger and watching my favorite Packer show. That sucks. Hey, listen, buddy, we appreciate you. And
he knows it sucks because you literally banned him one time just because, and then he had to go figure out how to unban people. He can block.
We were trying to ban a spam account in here one night that was just hitting spam. And I looked up, I hit it, this chat had moved, and it said, you banned Jason Y. I went, oh no. He had actually super chatted that show too. So, yeah, he knows it sucks. You're right, Emilio. But, hey, that's what you get with these mediocre. So, yeah, Jason took one for the team. There's no doubt about that. Again, Jason, thank you so much for the super chat. And honestly, man, that's how I listen to my favorite shows. One of my favorite things to do is like early spring, Emilio, the grass hasn't went crazy yet. You're getting off work a little bit early still. Mm-hmm. Man, there's nothing like firing up the grill, grabbing a daddy soda and popping it on YouTube and listen to a little Home Depot music in the background. Got your burner phone doing that, and then you got your real phone watching YouTube channel of your favorite Packers podcast. That's the way to do it. So, appreciate you, Jason. You are the man, dude. I love that it's a rule, too. We've got to let that beat drop before
it just hits. Yeah, you have to.
Coach Lynn in the chat. Quay ain't going nowhere. He's been saying that since day one, Coach Lynn has. And I swear I think that Tim's Coach Lynn sometimes. I think
I promise you, Coach Lynn is not my burner account. I promise. Great minds think alike. I see you, Coach Lynn. Salute.
That's what it is. JJ McQuaid in the house. Appreciate you, buddy. Swinging through. He says, I don't know, but Hopper hits like a sledgehammer. He does. Man.
Greg Rice was asking how fast Hopper is, and I wasn't sure either. But
I want to say it was 4.5, I think. Let me let's do a little check on that. Somebody in the chat, let us know Tyron Hopper's 40-yard dash. I think he was really fast, if I remember correctly.
But he really does hit that. He does hit like a sledgehammer. I mean, that dude is just like hitting a brick wall and just stopping.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's kind of his superpower, right? That's what he does really well. They talked about it in camp that he's that thumper. He's that dude you want there in the A gap, and you kind of think, okay, A gap, run gap destroyer. That's a mock, right? But how does he cover vertically? Yeah. United Bates, I'm seeing a 4.50. I was thinking it was close to 4.4. So, yeah. And again, he kind of snuck up on us, if I remember correctly. He was pretty far down on our list. I say ours like Emilio is signing off on it. He's probably going to don't put my name in that mouth right there. Right? Let's see.
Don't put that name in my mouth right there.
I had Tyron Hopper was in the bottom third of the linebacker class, which I kind of feel vindicated because he didn't play much this year, right? It's obvious he wasn't ready, but he was in the purple color there, saying that he's one of like 6 players out of over 200 that fit the Packers perfectly from all the different things that they kind of specifically look for.
Yeah, he was around Dallas Gant and Darius Massow, kind of those kind of names on the board.
Yeah. It was. Jason said, is Tyron Hopper that guy that fell hard in the draft board? He was. J. Cole said 4.68, but Green Bay clocked him at 4.5. You guys remember that happened to Jaden Reed too, didn't it?
Yep.
Remember he had kind of a not
football speed.
What's that?
It's got that football speed.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. So again, Edgerrin Cooper going to be a dog. I'm glad he's a Packer for the foreseeable future. Go ahead and give him a lifetime contract. You know what I'm saying? I did share this video, Emilio. We can't put it on the screen for reasons
I sent you that?
Yeah.
That one had me. I was ready to run through a wall after I watched that video.
Yeah, we can't play it for language purposes on the show, but if you go to my Twitter account, you'll see it. Emilio sent that over. It says most American video ever is hilarious. And I just tagged in there, this video reminding me of a Josh Jacobs run. Just needs someone to use AI and convert the commentary to Larry McCarron's voice. So there you go with that. Now, I was combing through building the draft board today. We got 50 in the database, and the first of 3 qualifiers entered in for those 50. And what it comes down to is there's 3 qualifiers, and then we get a number. There's 3 more qualifiers. We get a number. There's 2 more qualifiers, and then that's the final grade on my board. So we've already started putting them in. Here are some of the players that really stick out to me right now. They just kind of jump off the page. Defensive tackle Mason Graham.
Here's the guy.
Halfback Ashton Jeanty. I mean, that dude, we're talking, in my opinion, we're talking Bijan Robinson top. That remember how highly touted he was? Like this, it's rare that you get a running back that you go, yeah, he's probably worthy of a top 10 pick. I think Ashton Jeanty is that dude. I really do. Quarterback Shadir Sanders.
Here's the guy.
Son. Little rumors swirl in there too that Dion name is obviously being tossed around for the Dallas Cowboys job, although I'm trying to think of who it was. Adam Schefter earlier doesn't think that's going to happen is kind of the vibe I got. But he's also mentioned with Vegas. And then Pac-Man Jones, who's really close to Dion, was on the Pat McAfee show earlier today, and he said the only way that he sees Dion jumping ship from Colorado is if he can coach his boys in the NFL. So if Shador was to go to the Vegas Raiders, could he slide in there? Now, you've been hearing Ben Johnson is going to the Raiders, right? But Adam Schefter said, I don't know why everybody's just assuming that Ben Johnson's not going to Chicago. They're acting like there's no way he's going to Chicago. That's still on the table. So you got a lot of smoke and mirrors right now, and obviously these teams, it's not until after the divisional round that you're going to be able to interview those teams, right? So there's going to be a lot of other coaches a part of these hot organizations that you know what I'm saying, that will later be interviewed. So I don't think anybody's going to pull the trigger too quick. Does sound like Coach Mike has got a leg up in Chicago, so it's Lions season. You guys know how that goes. Yep. I love the coaching carousel, though. It's one of my favorite times of the year. It really is, man. But anyway, go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say, like, I'm not a fan of the nepotism from Dion, if there's truth to that. Like, you either want to coach in the big show or not, man. Like, the whole bring my sons and I'll coach your team aspect is not a fan of that.
Got it. I can respect that. At the same time, if you put yourself in his shoes, how cool would it be? Go chase.
I'm sure it would be really cool. Yeah, for sure. But to hold an entire franchise hostage and their draft pick, or like to play that as a card is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of lame to me.
Is his brother coming out this year or next year?
I don't know. You're talking about, is it Shiloh? Am I thinking right?
I want to say it's Shiloh. But yeah, I guess that would be the determining factor is how you're going to be able to line both those up, sort of thing, to the same franchise.
Right. And is Shiloh good enough to play in the NFL, right? There you go. Passport_man says LeBron James did it. How'd that work out, too? Right?
How that worked out, right?
But Shador, I will say this about Shador. If he was not Dion's son, the information I looked at today, if he wasn't Dion's son, I'd still be going, damn, this dude's good.
Yeah, no, he still belongs in the league for sure. Oh yeah, regardless.
I like him quite a bit more than the quarterback out of Miami that everybody's going crazy over right now. He had a hell of a year too. Yeah, I mean he had a great year this year. So another one is wide receiver. I'm sure I'll screw it up. Teteroa. I don't even know how to say his name. How would you say that name right there, Emilio? Tetaroa.
Who?
Teteroa McMillan.
We didn't have anybody back home in Harlan County, Kentucky named that. Weird. I just never faced that in my life. Anyways, last name's McMillan, wide receiver. Some of the numbers you're looking at from him crunching those early qualifiers. Woo-wee. Probably as it sits right now, might be the best wide receiver in the draft, in my opinion. I'm sure there's plenty of people that would disagree. Edge defender James Pierce, who kind of dropped on the boards this year. Going into the year, he was like, Tim, you remember we were doing college football total access in the offseason? He was like top 5. Right. Yeah. And then as the season went along, he's dropped. Lo and behold, I went through, crunched the numbers, and used some of my qualifiers. And holy cow, dude, James Pierce is right up there toward the top again. So he's back. There we go. Jake Shavink says Teteroa. And see, you guys, the other night I told you it sounded like a wordy dirt when I put it in and got it translated. They were saying Tetaroa is what they were saying. So I was, a little nervous about saying that, but since Jake said Tetaroa, there you go. All right. Tight end Colston Loveland. As it sits right now, I think he's the best tight end in the draft, and it's early. This is going to shift big time by the time all the qualifiers are in. And then this is probably my favorite prospect so far. Edge from Marshall, Mike Green. If you guys get a chance, go watch his tape. I'm sure Jake's seen it. This dude's got some bend, boy. He's got bend. He's got a spin move. He's unbelievable. And I'm telling you, the PFF numbers checked out. Early on, it's like this Mike Green dude is on the consensus big board. I don't want to tell you guys wrong here. Where's Mike Green? Let me find him here. He's 34th on the consensus big board right now.
Yeah.
In my opinion, him and James Pierce might be the two best edges in the draft. So,
I mean, this whole list might be, all these guys might go top 25, right?
And what's crazy, Tim, is these are my favorite, and I'm only through the top 50 on the consensus board. So I can't wait to get to the lower half and really find some of those gems. That's where Goody's going to cook, obviously. Yeah, Jake says 34th. Yeah, that's too low. Let me show you the consensus. Well, I get this shared right now. Yeah, on the consensus big board, they have Mike Green 34th, and he peaked at 33. Now they've got him projected to go at number 27 to Washington. I think if he shows up at the combine, that dude's probably going to climb way up there. Probably get a little closer to the top 15, I would imagine. So, going to be interesting though next couple of months. Anything you guys want to add to these prospects here before we move on? Anything at all?
Some dogs right there. I'm excited to do some deep diving here as the offseason progresses for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't forget about my Iowa State receiver.
Oh, that's right. Who we got, Tim? Do you remember his name?
Yeah, Higgins.
Yeah. Jaden Higgins, PFF grade this year, 90.3. And he was sitting in the number 54 spot according to PFF's big board. So you can land him in the second round, boys. That might be a steal there. We'll
yes,
see.
Sir.
We'll see.
Yes, sir. Go D tackle in the first round if you don't trade back.
Hopefully he runs a sideways 40, and then Goody clocks him at 4.12, and we go ahead and draft him. You know what I mean? So that's how I hope that falls into place. Crossfire. What do you say? Colston Loveland, the man. There you go. Again, man, he stood out to me out of all the tight ends. So there you go. A little bit of prospect talk. See if there's anything else. I think we're all caught up. Yeah, we're all caught up on Twitter. So let's just keep this party rolling here, and let's jump into some tackle talk of draft prospects. And we're just going to strictly use PFF's information here and kind of show you where some of these guys are hitting. Emilio, Tim, you got
Coach was asking this in 4-3. Can we use a bendy type edge player? I think that's a good question. I mean, you like to have the edge be able to set it, especially with us trying to, everyone's trying to force that wide nine, get that outside zone game out of the offense. But I think there are definitely times when you need a bendy edge, and I miss it, honestly. I miss when they just used to get sideways and just peel around. But it's also the quarterbacks are different. We're trying to train them, keep them in rush lanes, all those things. But what do you have?
Up and out, man. That's what they're trained to do now. If you get too bendy and they bend outside, quarterback steps up and out, and now it's explosive play central, man. You're talking about 4 windows on 2 receivers. And, oh, by the way, these quarterbacks are just as fast as running backs now, right? So, that's a good question. It really is, Coach. The way that Hafley called this defense this year, they played it very, very conservative. And it's obvious they were trying to stop the run. Now, teams are going to have that on them next year. They're going to have that tape. So maybe next year we do get a little bendy. We turn it loose a little bit, right? I really like the way they approached it this year. I know many fans hated it all year long because they're looking at sack numbers and all that and thinking this defense sucks. And it's all year long we're looking up and going, boys, they've improved. Oh, look, they got even better. And at the end of the year, you look up and you got a borderline top 5 defense. So,
Nope. Just ask Jacob.
Ask Jacob. They are definitely 6 in scoring because that butt cheek gonna get lit up here soon. I promise you that. All right. So we hit on the free agents at tackle earlier. We talked about Ronnie Stanley, he's 30 years old. We talked about Tyron Smith, who's 34 years old. He's drawing Social Security. We got Alaric Jackson, who's 26, and Dan Moore, who's 26. My personal favorite there, and I wouldn't mind if they went – and tried to get him for a deal would have been Alaric Jackson, who is with the LA Rams. Similar system, a true tackle, obviously can give you a little depth at tackle. Maybe if you can kick him to guard, or if you like someone like Alaric, and I can't remember if he's a right tackle or not, maybe that gives you a reason, makes you comfortable with putting Tom inside from time to time. That could happen as well if you got someone. I just don't think they were even going to entertain the thought looking in on the bench and seeing Andre Dillard over there. They're like, no, we're just going to leave Tom right where he's at. I don't care how banged up the inside gets. So, you got anything to add to that, Emilio? I know you wasn't here for the free agent talk with the tackles earlier.
No, I think that's all great points. I really, stick with our boys. Tom's got to get paid. Glover's getting more than him right now, so I think we got to adjust that.
Yeah, that is a wild stat, isn't it? Emilio called it. Emilio said Travis Glover is better than Zach Tom.
I'm saying, man, until he gets paid.
I will get a YouTube comment saying, I can't believe y'all think that Travis Glover's better than Zach Tom. It's coming, I promise you. So, all right, let's get on to the rookies here. At the top of the list, according to PFF, Will Campbell out of LSU, 6'6", 323, 21 years old. PFF grades 72.2, 82.8 last year, 75.4 the year before. So obviously took a slight step back, at least according to PFF. But, man, when you're built like that, he's going to be towards the top. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the top tackle taken. Second, you got Josh Simmons in the number 11 overall spot. His PFF grades, I'm going to try to remind myself to go backwards here, okay? Or at least, work forward. Starting in 22, PFF grades 47.1, 67.5, 74.4. So you're seeing a steady increase there from Josh Simmons, 6'5", 310 out of Ohio State. That's a dynamic team, man. I seen today, I think, Tim, Ohio State are 8.5-point favorites over our Notre Dame Fighting Irish come Monday night. It's going to
don't matter. They're going to catch that L, man. Don't matter.
Catch that Marcus Freeman.
Clay in 2022, he played 800 snaps at right tackle, and then 2023-24, he played left tackle.
Ooh, really? So he's better at left tackle, obviously, right?
Looks like it.
Yeah, got it. Next in the 14 spot, Texas, offensive tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. This dude, man, stud. He's going to be 21, I guess, when the draft hits here. 6'4", 320.
Thick.
PFF grades in 22, 71, 75, 86 this year. What do we got with him?
Strictly left tackle, all of his snaps ever.
Yeah, that man's getting taken early.
Pass block grade of an 89.8, run block grade of an 81.0, true pass set block grade 79.9.
Interesting. All right, next 20 spot from Missouri. You got Armin Mimbo. I'm saying it right. 6'3", 314 pounds, so not quite as tall as the other guys. Some people look at that as a positive. Some people look at it as a negative. His PFF grade starting in 2022, 67.6, 67.1, and then in 2024, he must have ate his Wheaties, 90.5.
Here's the guy.
Where's he at, Emilio? Talk to me.
He is strictly a right tackle every single snap except one this last year in 24 at left guard, one snap at left guard.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say, so play along with me here. What if someone like Mimbo fell to the Packers?
Okay.
Goody's got, a top 10 grade on him, right? And he goes, hey, we can't pass this up. You take him. What if you took him, let him play right tackle, and then move Zach Tom? That's a possibility. Right?
But then Zach Tom's playing center getting right tackle money, though.
Maybe Zach Tom plays left tackle.
Right. But Mimbo, if he is a solid right tackle, right, and we're just kind of – I know people are rolling their eyes. It's okay. We're just having fun here, okay? If he is a solid right tackle, look at the money you're saving on Mimbo as a rookie with the 23rd pick.
Whatever keeps Big E at left guard, I'm cool.
Tim does not want E at center at all.
Even if you move Zach Tom over to left tackle, and you figure out your center, you bring Jordan Morgan in maybe at right guard or something like that, and you bring, this Mimbo. I mean, I don't know if you want to go young on one whole side, but
hey, anything that gets our boy Travis Glover on the field, that's all that matters.
Thank you.
So
center in waiting, Travis Glover.
Jake Shavink says that Armand Mimbo is offensive tackle 1. So that's obviously his favorite tackle in the draft. As it sits, I had it worked up. I think I got to him. Let me see real quick. Early, it's really early. Like I said, we got like 6 more qualifiers to go here. Let me see where I had him real quick. If I have easy access to it, where are you at, Armand? Here we go.
Here's the guy.